Hello, amazing humans, and welcome back to Wildly Free Reflections with me, Ashley Looker. This is going to be a little bit maybe longer of an episode because I personally love this topic so much, and I feel like I have so much to say about it. This month in my Joy School, we are talking about purpose and meaning. Of course, I love to talk about joy. That's what we talk about a lot here on Wildly Free Reflections, but purpose and joy are actually very, very connected, which we are going to talk about. But I just personally love talking about purpose. As a matter of fact, purpose is my purpose on the planet. Like, I am here to talk about it. I am here to guide people closer to their purpose. I am here to connect people's joy and purpose. Like, that is what I'm here to do. And so I just love talking about this topic. So take me for a walk, take me for a drive, however you want to listen to this episode, but it might be a little bit longer than the ones that I've done in the past, okay? So with that all being said, I'm going to talk about just some main points, and I think some things that some beliefs or misbeliefs around purpose, some things that I think we need to unlearn around purpose. That's what I'm going to talk about first. I'm going to share some of my own personal thoughts and experiences around purpose. I want y'all to know that these are my thoughts and experiences. So you get to decide what purpose means for you. I always invite my audience or anybody who's listening to just take what I say with a grain of salt. Like, that really lands, or if you notice, like, ooh, that really hits a chord for me, awesome, right? There might be something in that for you, but if other things don't land, then you don't need to take those things with you, all right? I really want to talk about purpose on a micro level and purpose on a macro level. And then I want to talk a little bit about examples around purpose. Of course, I have my handy dandy outline. And then ways that you can connect with your purpose. If you are finding me right here, right now, and you're feeling really disconnected from your purpose, this is definitely an episode for you to listen to. Or if you're like, I feel pretty good in my life, but I feel like there might be a little something missing, you're in the exact right place today. So I can't wait to hear what your thoughts and experiences are around purpose as well. So as you're listening, or after you're listening, definitely drop your thoughts, your questions, your insights below this video, because I love this to be not just a time for me to reflect, but for us to reflect together. So feel free to connect with me, and I always love to hear what y'all's thoughts are. So I wanted to kick us off today with just a little story, a little something about me, who I am, and who I have always been. So ever since I was a little girl, I can still just I'm picturing my bay windows in my parents' house that looked out to these beautiful trees in our property butted up against this gulch. So there's lots of trees. And I remember as a little girl, I would always sit in my window and I would just stare at the trees. And I was fascinated by the trees, by how they grew and how they would move in the wind. And I would sit there and I would just contemplate and think and reflect on what my purpose is and what the meaning of life is. I was probably, single digits, like 7, 8, 9, 10-ish, where I would really just take time to think about these things. I loved to think about these things. I was so intrigued with why am I here? And how did the trees grow? And why is there wind? And now why is there rain? And the squirrels, and now I just was fascinated by the way that the world worked, and nature specifically. Like, the seasons to this day is something that I talk about often that really fascinates me. Just the nature of life, and that question that I think so many of us think about often. I mean, if you're anything like me, empath, highly sensitive person, you may have had this question cross your mind a time or two, which is, why am I here? Why am I here? what is the purpose? What is the meaning of all of this, right? By the way, I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer. If you do, drop it below. I think that really truly is like for each one of us to decide. That is what meaning making is like we get to decide what the meaning of our life is. It's not something that we are searching for or reaching for or trying to find outside of ourselves. It is something that we make meaning of, right? Things happen to us every single day. Things happen in our lives every single day, and we get to make meaning of that. We can say this is good, right? We can tell ourselves this is a good thing. We can tell ourselves this is a bad thing. We make meaning out of everything that happens every single day. And so I don't have the answer, but this is something that I think about often, honestly, still. At 42, I think about, why am I here? Especially on those harder days where you're like, man, this really sucks. Like, why is this happening? I think about that a lot. And on the really good days, I think about it like, wow, why is this happening? What is the meaning of this? What is the purpose of this all? What am I here to contribute? That's another question that I think is very connected to our purpose. What am I here to do? How am I here to serve? How am I here to contribute to this planet? And I think that's kind of where things might start to get a little muddy. That's where things might get a little confusing. That's where some of the pressure may start to sneak in when we talk about purpose. Like that purpose needs to be something big, right? That purpose is changing the world in some way, right? That is how I've always thought about purpose, is like, oh, I'm going to solve world hunger. Oh, I am going to stop people from littering. That's something that's been on my mind lately. Stop people from littering on this beautiful earth. Like, I am going to solve this massive problem in my community, right? Like that is what purpose is, right? It's like I will go to the depths, right? To fight for this thing that I truly believe in. And I think for some people that is true. I think that some people are here to do that, and they have the energy and they have the life circumstances, they have the support that really support them and support them in moving in that direction. Like they have the resources, they have the time, they have the money, those kinds of things to really support them in going after that thing, right? But that is not necessarily everybody's purpose. And this is what I talk about inside my Joy School and inside basically anything that I do, is identifying what the right size purpose is for you. And I first learned about this idea from Stephen Cope. He wrote The Great Work of Your Life, which is basically my Bible, to be honest. This book, ripped me apart and put me back together again. Basically, it really taught me a lot about what purpose is and what I am here for. So it's actually required reading in my one-on-one coaching program called The Compass. It's really required reading for anybody. I would recommend anybody who's kind of grappling with, what their purpose is and why they, not really knowing why they're here. Read that book. It will change the way that you think about purpose and really help you get clarity for sure. So he talks about the right sized purpose. And, of course, growing up and in my 20s, I would think like, oh, I've got this Oprah sized purpose and I'm going to change millions of people and I'm going to be on stages in front of millions of people and people are going to know my name, And the more I think about that and reflect back on that, it's like, wow, that was like such an ego-driven desire and goal that I had. And I mean, that's not to say that might still happen. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea, right? Nobody knows what really the future holds. But, the more I reflect on that as well is I don't know if I have the energy for that. I am a sensitive person. I am an introvert. do I really have the capacity to be on stage in front of millions of people? Do I really have the capacity to, be on Instagram 24/7 or whatever a role like that would require? I don't know if that is me. That's not necessarily something that drives me at this point. I don't know if that's something that it would really fulfill me at this point either. That's something that I'm definitely still grappling with. So I guess one of the first things I really want us to, become aware of is this right size purpose, and that your purpose doesn't have to be really huge in order to really matter. Your purpose can be micro, like I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. Like, I think that is where many of us start and where many of us begin. And if we do these micro level purpose things, this is going to absolutely bring you a fulfilling life and create a fulfilling life for yourself. And that's really what purpose is, right? Purpose and fulfillment, feeling fulfilled in your life. Like, when I am journaling on my floor on a Saturday morning with 45 journals around me and every single sticker and every single washi tape, I am fulfilled. Right? That is like, wow, I get to do this, kind of a purpose that feels meaningful for me. I'm learning, I'm diving in deep. Like, that's what I'm doing, and I love to do that. And that's not what everybody loves to do. Every single person gets to choose. That's what I believe. Every single person, including you out there, anybody listening, anybody watching, you get to choose the meaning that you make in your life. You get to choose the purpose that you have on this planet. You get to decide that your life has meaning, right? And it can be journaling on the floor. It can be serving the coffee to the happy customers out the window. It can be grabbing an aisle at the Home Depot and just, gabbing away with people, directing people, telling them where to go. That can be meaningful. That can be purposeful. Why not? Right? Why should it not be? I was talking to clients about this, and one was really struggling with their that they weren't in the job that really fulfilled them, right? And I know so many of us have been in that place, right? Where we're like, oh my gosh, or just going through the motions in life, and we don't really feel fulfilled in the work that we do in the world. Well, that doesn't necessarily need to be your purpose, right? That also doesn't mean that job doesn't have meaning for yourself and for others. It's bringing you in a paycheck. It's helping others in some way, I am sure, right? So it has meaning. It has value. Every job does. There needs to be a person working at McDonald's, and there needs to be, the CEO of Google. We need people in all of these areas, and not everyone is cut out for each of those jobs. We all really need to take a look inward and get clear on what would fulfill me. What would light me up, right? What would that be for me? So our purpose doesn't need to be our job. It doesn't need to be our paycheck. For some people, it is. For me, there is a part of what I get to do that feels purposeful, that feels like a part of my purpose on this planet, which I am so grateful for. But it's also not everything. It is not my full purpose. I get to express my purpose in other ways, in other things that are really important to me, that really matter. I get to be influential for my nieces. I get to be a safe place for them. That feels purposeful. That feels meaningful. Maybe even more meaningful than how I make money, right? So our purpose is not synonymous. It is not necessarily connected to our paycheck. So that's the other thing that I want us to think about and consider when we're talking about purpose. And if you're in a place right now where your job isn't your purpose, you get to explore. You get to explore other things that light you up, other things that you enjoy, right? When you're not at your 9 to 5 or you're not at your job, the thing that makes money for you, How can you tap into purpose? Do you go out in your garden? Do you hang out with your pets? Do you create little like art projects for yourself? Are you working on little things in your home? Like, what is lighting you up? So we can fulfill ourselves in other ways, right? Maybe you love making new recipes or like feeding people, right? Having people over for dinner parties. I mean, there's literally the sky is the limit. It truly is. So you are the meaning maker in your life. You are the purpose maker. Our mind is constantly trying to make meaning of things, right? So whatever you're experiencing in your life, you are trying to make meaning of. And so what kind of meaning are you creating in your life right now? Are you saying like, oh, well, I'm not in the job that I really want to be in, so I'm not living my purpose? Is that true? Is that really true? Really take a moment here and think about what is the meaning that I am making of my life right now? And could it shift? Could you make a different choice? Abso-freaking-lutely you can, right? Our lives, we don't always have the life circumstances that we want. That's kind of what we're dealt as human beings, right? Like life circumstances shift and change. You may be in a hard season right now. You may be in a wonderful season right now. And those life circumstances can absolutely inform our purpose. They don't necessarily dictate our purpose, but it does inform our purpose. When crummy things happen in our life, you're diagnosed with cancer. You suffer a big loss in your life. These things can redirect us, right? You are diagnosed with a chronic illness. These things can shift us and inform like, wow, I really want to help other people, other cancer survivors, other people who are struggling with this chronic illness, other people who are suffering with loss, right? Our life circumstances can inform the direction that we choose in our life. And again, the meaning that we make of these things. And so if you're sitting here going, this fucking job sucks, I hate it, that life circumstance that you're in right now doesn't necessarily need to inform your purpose dictate your purpose, but it can inform it. So what can I do outside of my job? What can I do that will fulfill me? What plans can I make over the weekend? What can I do after work on the weekday that's going to support me in feeling like my life really has meaning and I really am here for a purpose and I really matter? Because you fucking do. You do. You really do. Okay. Purpose is also not one thing. Again, feel free to disagree with me. I don't think that purpose is really one thing, although I think for some it is. When I think about Pablo Picasso, and I think about Jane Goodall and, people who like the Kennedys, politicians who are just like, it's in their blood, it's like what they are here to do. And they know at a young age that they are meant to do this thing, right? I think that's really great for some people. I think that is, what happens to some people, but I don't think that that's what happens with everyone. And I think purpose can shift and change. I think it can evolve, again, with our life circumstances. One of the things that Stephen Cope talks about is aligning our purpose with the times, right? Like the times that we are in. And given the times that we are in right now, maybe your life purpose shifts because of the division that we're experiencing in the United States. Maybe your purpose shifts for, women's rights and healthcare. Maybe, even reflecting back on COVID and how many people shifted the direction of their life because of that, that pandemic and that global crisis that so many of us, that we're all experiencing, right? So it can shift and change, and it often does evolve with us. Although I think for some people it's like, nope, this is it, right? And I know this is it. I know I want to be a teacher. I know I'm going to be a singer. I know, right, whatever it is. But if you're not that, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not knowing or not doing your purpose as your job, okay? Nothing wrong with that. I don't think that our purpose is found. I know a lot of people, and I may have even said that like on accident throughout this conversation already today of like finding your purpose, right? I really think that I think at one point I did believe that it was something that I would find, that like eventually I would like land on it and it was a destination and I could just go, all right, cool, figured it out, right? I think it is something that is cultivated. I think if you don't know what your purpose is, you dabble. You dabble with the thing where you're like, that sounds like fun, or that feels good, or that brings me joy. And you dabble and you experiment and you follow those little breadcrumbs, right? And you follow those little inklings and you follow those little nudges. And pretty soon you are living a life of fulfillment. So if you were sitting on the other side of this screen going, I have no fucking clue, dabble. Dabble, experiment, create, right? Instead of finding it, create it. Create meaning, right? Create meaning by being generous to somebody else, saying something grateful, something that you're grateful for about somebody else, right? I mean, there's so many ways that we can create meaning and purpose in our lives every single day. It doesn't have to be something ginormous and gigantic, right? So I want to talk a little bit about the micro level of purpose, and then I'll talk a little bit about the macro level. I'm much more versed in the micro level, to be honest. I'm still exploring this kind of more macro level purpose that I think many people are also possibly thinking about and contemplating. I have thoughts about that as well. So when I talk about a micro level purpose, what I'm really talking about, and this is where we can all start. Again, if you're like, I don't know what my purpose is, I feel like my life doesn't have meaning, this is where we can all start. This is like the basics. This is like our opportunity to bring in and cultivate meaning and purpose on a daily basis. So the first thing, which is why we started Enjoy School with authenticity in January, because this is so necessary for literally everything else that we do in our lives. We have to be ourselves. Your purpose is to be you. And I know that sounds very simple, and God bless it, okay? God bless it. Let it be simple. I think so many of us are overcomplicating our purpose. Like it has to be this and that, and then it has to be, and it's just going to be this perfect unfolding. That's not what it is. That is not purpose. Purpose is you being you, fully expressed, just like I am in this exact moment. I was not able to do this my whole entire life, right? There was a big portion of my life where I was holding back. I was making myself small. I thought I couldn't say the F word. I thought, I had to tamper myself down a little bit. I couldn't be loud. I couldn't be passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. This is me being me. And I feel so much joy and fulfillment in this moment by just being myself. And that is our purpose. And when we are ourselves, we are on purpose, right? We are on and in our purpose when we are ourselves, fully expressed. And it's such a gift. It is such a gift. I feel like in this moment, I am giving y'all a gift by showing up and being myself fully expressed in this moment. And you get to do the same thing. And that is part of your purpose. That is the part of when I say micro, I mean what's available to us right now in this body, in this moment. I can always choose to be myself, no matter what is going on, whether shit has hit the fan or things are the best they have ever been, I can be myself, right? In these moments. So that's what I mean by micro. Everybody can start there, right? Everybody can go, you know what? I'm going to be my sassy little self today, or I'm going to be my introverted little self today. I'm not going to talk to nobody, right? Like we get to choose that. And that is part of our purpose. So that is, kind of like level one, the kind of base foundation of our purpose. Our purpose also, and I believe this to my core, is joy. I believe that God, source, divine, whatever got us here, whatever you believe got us here, I believe we all chose to be here in this body with this family in this lifetime, in this time in history, right? I believe that we are here to experience joy. I don't believe that anybody chose to be here on this planet to be fucking miserable. I believe that we are here to be joyful and to connect. And again, joy and connection are one of the same. We need connection in order to feel joyful. And so that is our purpose, to be joyful, to experience joy, to express joy. That is why we are here. Of course, we're not going to be happy all the time. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that this is our true nature. That joy is our true nature. That this is our fucking baseline. That this is the place that we always return to. This is the place where our bodies and our souls are always trying to get us back to. Right? That this is where we're clicked in. This is where we're fucking locked in, is in joy. Right? But things are going to happen, right? We're going to experience loss. We're going to experience grief. We're going to experience guilt and disappointment and overwhelm and stress and anxiety and fear. But that is not our purpose to experience, Actually, we are here to experience all of those things, right? We are here to experience the whole gamut of emotions. What I believe is that joy is the place that we return to. It is the purpose of why we are here. And it is the place where we serve the best. We show up as our best selves in this energy. So one of our purposes is to experience joy. Our purpose is to make meaning of our lives, whatever that is, whatever that may be. And again, we can make meaning of every single day. I just used this example the other day at our journal party. I was looking outside as I was teaching and I was like, man, it's such a shitty day outside. It was just like pouring down rain. It had been raining for a couple days. The dogs and I had not been getting outside for our walks. And I was just like, God, it's just so gloomy and depressing. And I can make meaning of that, right? I can go, it's just going to be a fucking shitty day. Or I could go, I get to put my comfy clothes on. I get to cuddle with the dogs. Ooh, maybe I make an afternoon fire, right? Maybe this means that I get to stay home and be cozy with the pups, right? That's an example of meaning making, right? And we get these choices, these opportunities every single day. And lastly, on this micro level of purpose, our purpose is living and expressing our values, living by our values, whatever those may be. And they're different for everybody. A couple of my values: joy, freedom, and health, vitality. Like those things, just, I love it. I love those things. I love, if I'm going to spend money somewhere, I'm going to spend time somewhere, it's going to revolve around my freedom my joy and my health, right? I love a spa. I love a good massage. I love, going to Costco and getting healthy foods for the week. Like that, I love those things. Those are my values. And so I get to spend my life, we all do, living out those values and expressing those values and connecting with others through those values, right? So those are the micro levels that we can all connect with any day. So that is where I really encourage y'all to start. If you are feeling really lost right now, start with those micro level things. And I guarantee you, you are going to feel so much more fulfilled in your life. All right. So let's talk for a moment about this macro level. This is still a mystery to me, to be honest. I do think I have an idea of what my grander purpose is, I think. And I like to think about, if you're somebody who is looking or wanting to explore this bigger purpose, I like to think of it kind of as an umbrella. Right? There's this bigger mission, this bigger purpose. And again, it's this umbrella that maybe other things can fall under. The authentic self, being yourself, living your values, finding joy, right? But there might be this thing where you're I just sense that there maybe is something more, right? That there is something that might be missing from my life that is just quite not aligned, and I'm really looking for what that bigger thing is. If that is you, I first want to encourage you to think about why are you looking for this bigger purpose? What is sparking you or encouraging you to look for this bigger purpose? Is it because there's a knowing in you that you could make a bigger impact? And an impact is something that you feel like your soul aligned with? Or is this I'm not doing enough? I need to do more to matter on this planet, and it feels very ego driven. So again, going back to, when I was in my early 20s and I was I'm going to have an Oprah-sized purpose. I'm going to fucking be on stages in front of millions of people. That was, for me, very ego-driven, right? And again, not necessarily aligned with who I authentically am. And so, your bigger piece really needs to be coming from a heart-centered place, from a soul-centered place of I just have this knowing that there's more. There's something else, or there's something missing, right? And that can kind of point our compass. It can point our little North Star in a different direction, right? So really get clear and be honest with yourself about the why that you're searching. There's that word again, searching for this bigger purpose. Ultimately, I think that we are here to have an impact, and we do have an impact. And it doesn't have to be an Oprah-sized purpose to have an impact. Today, for example, I had to go to the dollar store for a couple things, and I was just in a really fucking good mood. And I was smiling at everybody. And I noticed that another gentleman noticed. And when I left the store and I was leaving the parking lot, he was leaving the store and waved at me, and I was just he noticed, right? And that felt so purposeful that I know that had an impact. I know that had an impact on him. And I could feel it, I could just sense it. And so I think on a macro level, yeah, we are here to have an impact, but don't underestimate that impact of waving to the guy at the dollar store. You can have an impact waving at the guy at the dollar store. You don't have to have, your impact doesn't have to be thousands of followers on Instagram. Although it could be, who knows, right? So I do believe that. And we can have an impact on our family and on our friends and on our spouses. Don't underestimate that impact that is going to ripple out into the world and essentially make a macro impact. Okay. All right. So a few examples of purpose. So take a deep breath. Let it go. And I just have about, 10 or 12 examples here of people's purpose. People that I've worked with, celebrities. And hopefully this just gets your wheels turning about, purpose and what your purpose could be. And then I'll talk briefly about a few ways that you can connect with your purpose. Then we're out. Okay. All right. So my purpose is to study chimpanzees in the wild. Whose purpose is that? We all know. My purpose is to write poetry. My purpose is to make and sell coffee to my community. My purpose is to drive store supplies across states to people who need them. My purpose is to be a great friend. My purpose is to heal. My purpose is to learn. My purpose is to remind people they aren't alone. My purpose is to explore. My purpose is to create. My purpose is to show people how to garden and to create a beautiful garden that I can enjoy every single day. My purpose is to build houses for the homeless community. My purpose is to teach people how to cook beautiful meals, healthy meals for themselves and others. My purpose is to put together furniture. My purpose is to fix people's plumbing. My purpose is to teach, right? Like there's a million, gazillion, trillion ways that we can connect with our purpose. All right. So hopefully that gets the wheels turning. Again, it doesn't have to be ginormous. It needs to be your right size purpose. All right. So here are some things to kind of notice when we are out exploring in the world around our purpose. Notice what breaks your heart. Notice the things that like get you the fuck fired up. Like you see the ASPCA commercials, that literally just make you weep. Or you see the homeless person on the street, or you see the kid that doesn't have the jacket during the winter, right? Notice the things that break your heart. It is different for everybody, again, right? And those things that really like break your heart are the things that can direct you, that can point that compass, that inner compass in the direction of your purpose, right? Do things that feel true, even if they go unseen. So do the things where you're like journaling on the floor and you're just like, this fucking feels so juicy and amazing, but nobody sees that, right? Write the poem, even if nobody sees it. Paint the painting, even if no one sees it. Write the song, sing the song, right? Build the thing, do the thing, even if not a single person sees it. Allow your purpose to be for you first, right? It's okay if it goes unseen. Did you enjoy it? Did you love it? Did it feel like it brought meaning to you? That is what matters, right? That is what matters. Align with resonance, not bigness. So notice where you're like, ooh, that's pulling me forward. Notice those things, not the bigness. Right? So aligning with resonance, not bigness. Follow what makes you feel alive and joyful. Just keep doing that, right? What if we just kept doing that all day? Just following what made us feel alive. Of course we have jobs and things, but like following what makes us feel alive and joyful. Where would that path take you? I'm just like imagining us like on this path of like joy and aliveness. Like what fucking amazing waterfall or thing is that going to lead you to if you did that? Choose a direction, not a final answer. I think so many of us are searching for a final answer. We're like, we need the thing. I need to identify what the thing is. Why? Why do you need a final destination? Why do you need a concrete answer? Great question to ask yourself, right? So choose a direction. And hopefully that direction is joy and aliveness, but it could be something different, right? It could be flow, like those things that like kind of challenge you, but you get lost in. Ask yourself what mattered today. Like, what are the things where you're like, oh, you kind of thought about it all day, right? It might have been something very simple, very small, but you thought about it all day and it really mattered to you, right? Maybe if it's something as small as like, oh, the person like in a traffic jam let you squeeze in, you know, wave at the dollar store. Like, what mattered to you? That can point you in a direction. That can point your inner compass. All right. Express yourself imperfectly. I think a lot of clarity can come from like speaking and writing and just authentically putting yourself out there. All right. So journal, write, speak, and see what clarity arises for you. And last but certainly not least, be generous in any way that you can. I think generosity can go a really long way, right? Being generous with yourself and others. Not necessarily money-wise. It can be, like I always say, but a wave at the dollar store is very generous, right? I got a lot of people who just like looked away at me today. That's fine, right? That's totally fine. It's okay. But be generous, right? Doesn't take much to give somebody a compliment or, you know, to wave and smile or tell somebody to have a nice day. Be generous and just see what shifts for you. Okay, so I have a couple other little pro tips for you. A writing exercise that you can do that my coach encouraged me to do years ago. I actually should maybe revisit this, but a simple exercise that you can do is you can write, get out a piece of paper and a pen, right at the top, my purpose is, and keep writing that until you land on the answer that makes you cry. My purpose is to explore. My purpose is to learn. My purpose is to write poetry. My purpose is to be an incredible wife. Like, my purpose is to write until you land on the thing that makes you cry or that gives you chills or gives you butterflies in your stomach. The thing that gets a visceral response. That is probably your current purpose. All right. And last, but certainly not least, instead of asking, what is my purpose? What is my purpose on the planet? Right? Like that's such an overwhelming question to ask yourself. What is my purpose? Pretty much everybody's going to draw a blank, right? So instead of asking yourself, what is my purpose? Ask yourself, where do I feel most alive? And what does that point to in myself and my life? So take a moment today and put 3 to 5 minutes on your clock and take some time to journal on that. You're going to get some clarity, I can guarantee you. And I guess I have lots of final thoughts today. My final thought is, and I'm going to read this because this is really, really important. Your life doesn't become meaningful when you find the right path. It becomes meaningful when you decide it is meaningful. So you don't have to be perfectly aligned to the nth degree to your purpose for your life to have meaning. Your life already has meaning because you're here and you have already had an impact and you've already made a difference and you've already provided so much value to yourself and others. So we can just check that off the list already. Okay? So be done with that and know that your life has meaning. Let me read it one last time. Your life doesn't become meaningful when you find the right path. It becomes meaningful when you decide it's meaningful. So make that decision today. Make that decision today. And if you are still here, thank you for listening to the very end of this episode. Like I said, I knew it was going to be a little bit longer one today, but if you are still feeling really confused, really lost about what your purpose is, where you're going, the direction you're headed in life, I really want to encourage you to apply to the Compass. It is my new 4-month coaching program that is specifically designed for people like you to reorient themselves, find their true path, and walk it. I'm so excited about this program. It has changed so many people's lives, and I am inviting only a handful of people into this program starting this month. So if this sounds like you, let's have a conversation, just a pressure-free, no pressure conversation, you and I, about how I can support you, any questions you have. And of course, I want to hear about your life, your story, and where you might be struggling with your direction, your path, and your purpose. So I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here and listening to Wildly Free Reflections. I'm so excited for this month. April, the light is here, spring is here, buds are starting to pop and sprout, and it's really inspiring me to, explore my own purpose a little bit more. And I'm really grateful that I got the opportunity to chat about this today, because I really, really am so passionate about talking about purpose and joy. So I love you all so much, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.